model releases now measured in weeks, not quarters. Like it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, the SaaS apocalypse is real. I mean,
I don't want to use your agent. I want my agent to use your APIs. So the data center growth is much higher than the actual electricity generation growth here in the United States. And so at what point are we just going to tap out and just now you get throttled and now all the token charges go up? All right. So another week of fast and furious product launches. Just, I know we were just talking about, it's hard to even, I mean, to read the headlines is one thing, but to even get your hands on these things, I mean, I'm so deep on the Claude Cowork and Claude Design and Framer. Like, I haven't even touched Codex yet, but I'm hearing good things about it. So, and then AWS, Amazon and Anthropic launched a bunch of announcements this week where you can actually run the Anthropic platform on AWS, and you can bring your own key for Claude Cowork and Claude Code now with the Claude Desktop app. So it's just been, steal your phrase, drink from the fire hose this week. And I think it was a pre-release. It wasn't even a release. It wasn't a preview. It was a pre-release. So we had pre-enablement. It was fantastic.
it's yeah, it's everything's moving, and I mean, just the things that are applicable that I played with, like, the task and like the Claude being able to update artifact, they call them the artifacts, right? So like not jokingly, but I like just nerded out and built some like dashboards. But at the time I built them like a few weeks ago, they were just very like, static because it pulled in the data from that point in time. And it's not like refreshing it, but now like with the artifacts, like, it's enabled it just like as soon as I pull it up, I can just refresh the data. So now I have like live action BI dashboards.
Yeah, because they're not just artifacts, they're called live artifacts. Because I've been playing with artifacts because I'm actually trying to build a presentation deck. And so I didn't know how to do that. So I was like, Claude walked me through this. So we're building like the whole design template for it, but with certain core slides of how you want to display data. And it's a very iterative process and it's actually pretty slow. But I'm using artifacts. And so you're talking about live artifacts, which seems almost like a BI killer to be cliche. But
Yeah. Yeah. The SaaS apocalypse is real. I mean,
yeah.
cause yeah, but it's interesting too. There's a team in our space and they published a report this week. And luckily we showed up very well on this like report, this analysis they ran. But it was funny because the minute like I clicked on it, I knew it was Claude. Like the Claude helped them do it because the dashboard Claude has like the like, when you see the AI image and you're like, that's an AI created image. Like when
Yeah.
you see a Claude created dashboard, you're like, oh, that's Claude. The data was legit, right? They're pulling, and Claude's just like, publishing the BI interface. But yeah, I mean, people are using it, so it's
Yeah.
in action.
It's crazy. Well, I'll kick us off with headlines. Some interesting stuff happening. So first up, we have OpenAI launches GPT 5.5, smartest and most intuitive model yet. Geez, 88.7% on the software engineering bench, 6% fewer hallucinations, shipped 6 weeks after GPT 5.4. Model release is now measured in weeks, not quarters. Like it's just mind blowing. So I think I saw on the AI artificial analysis, so it's leapfrogged Opus 4.7. It's just the frontier just keeps going. So we got next up, SpaceX strikes a $60 billion deal for the right to acquire Cursor. So this is interesting. So post IPO, they can acquire them for 60 billion, which would be interesting. Why would you IPO? Who would invest in an IPO if you knew it was capped? And then I guess, yeah, so I guess it depends on the price. But then, I guess it was a $10 billion partnership funding. So it was an optionality. I think this just speaks to what we've talked about before. Distribution is one of the moats. So if you've got all the AI code editors, that is the use case, that is the industry. I think they're talking about software ate the world, but now agents are eating the software. So now AI, agents are now eating the world in lieu of that. So I just don't think XAI had a route to market. Full stop. Like, no, I don't know of anybody that's using them. I haven't talked to anybody that's using them at scale in the enterprise. And so I think they had to almost buy this if they really wanted to use it for anything more than like their own dog fooding, like Meta. So,
Yeah.
but big dollars. That was SpaceX, yeah. So, all
Yeah.
right, Google Cloud next, 8th generation TPU, crazy, just came out, 80% better performance per dollar, workplace and space intelligence, agentic enterprise is the future. That means almost nothing. It's from Sudar. We had Anthropic passes OpenAI in revenue. This is not new news, but 30 billion ARR, 30x growth in 15 months. 80% is the enterprise mix. It's crazy. It's almost the inverse of OpenAI there. 1,000 plus customers, over a million. I can tell you, everybody I talk to is asking about Anthropic and all my customers. It's kind of crazy. We got the Kimi 2.6 open source, 1 trillion parameter model, outperforms GPT 5.4 on coding. Pretty mind blowing there. 300 sub agents, 12 plus hours of autonomous. This open source eating the frontier seems a little extreme, but just the fact that everything's so fast following is crazy. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Well, only CFO, pricing pressure will crush you. Essentially, AI lowering the ceiling on like what people can charge. SaaS apocalypse is here. Just like the future is here, it's just unevenly distributed. I think SaaS apocalypse is here, but it's going to be unevenly distributed. It's hard to tell who's going to lose and who's going to win, but there are definitely some losers out there. And then outcome-based pricing, according to A16Z, is the best way to survive the SaaS apocalypse with pricing. So I'll end here. SaaS valuations at decade-plus lows. AI native companies get 1 to 3x premium. The median SaaS compressed to 5.5, whereas AI native platforms are 25 to 30x. It's just mind blowing. So, anything that jumped out to you this week?
I mean, yeah. I mean, your comment on the XAI and like no route to market, just like anecdotally, there was a post, I might have shared it with you, where the individual had said, and it got a bunch of likes, but anyways, basically said, oh, this is going to be an interesting future because rich people use Claude. And so Claude is getting trained by rich, like like not highly intelligent, but like more, skilled individuals. Whereas Meta is having to train its models on like Facebook garbage. And so like, but the analogy there too is like,
Dumpster diving. Appreciate
X
it.
is training it on, XAI is training it on Twitter.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
Suing.
garbage out. Like, I thought that was very funny and it's realistic too, right? Like we're using Claude and we're using it for like, I don't want to call it high performance business intelligent like activities. Whereas like Meta just has a bunch of people typing about like conspiracy theories and, local politics.
It is fascinating. So, another thing was Microsoft was exploring the acquisition, which blows my mind because they have GitHub. GitHub was the first to market. GitHub had first mover advantage, and Claude Code is eating the world. Cursor has obviously been really successful, and so I know this is a SpaceX story that we're going to dive in on, but it's kind of interesting to me. Microsoft seems to be having a little bit of an existential crisis. Like what? Because so much of the revenue is software, right? Versus Amazon, AWS is so much a platform and infrastructure and CapEx, and not that Azure is not all that, but they also have all their other software business. And then the other half of AWS or Amazon is like retail and advertising, and Google's kind of the same way. Advertising runs all their stuff plus their cloud. So it seems like Microsoft's software business is the most at risk of the 3 hyperscalers, which I found interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting time. Yeah. And I think you were sharing too, was it you where, the compute and the consumption of like just bandwidth for being able to support working on Claude on the infra side is like you were being throttled. Is that,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. 9:30 at night.
Yeah.
Not peak coding hours generally.
Yeah. But it's interesting to think through that too. Like if you think back to the early days of the internet, like I mean, yes, there was like, you could get like the broadband, but most were working on dial up, like probably dating myself, but just think if you were like, oh, can't access these websites right now. Like you would have lost like the interest in the internet.
Yeah, it is a trip, dude. I mean, they've talked about it, but I wonder when we're really going to see it. So they're trying to they're building all these data centers, but then something has to power. So the data center growth is much higher than the actual electricity generation growth here in the United States. And so at what point are we just going to tap out and just now you get throttled and now all the token charges go up? Are you going to pay a premium so you can get access from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.? Or there's just not enough to go around, or we're gonna have this whole inflection point around models getting more efficient, or we'll finally figure out the harness of how we can use more price performant or less energy intensive models for like the daily tasks. Cause I start out with Opus 4.7 on everything. Cause I'm like, why not? That's not, you can't do that for everything everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting and like totally like going off on a tangent, but when you talk about the, you know, 10 to 2 p.m., I think about when I lived in Phoenix. I don't know if it's like this in Texas, but I lived in Phoenix for a few years, and you would wash your clothes and like run your AC at night because it was cheaper. So
Yep.
they're like, the basically like certain times of day you could do things that were cheaper electricity wise.
Yeah. It's, Yeah, I think it's coming. It's interesting. So you got the four players, Cursor and XAI now. You got Claude Code, which is Anthropic. You got Codex, which is OpenAI, which I actually just downloaded again. I can't get the app to work. I was gonna check it out because I think it'd be good for adversarial, in the sense of testing the code that I do develop with Claude. And then the fourth one being open source Kimi K 2.6. And so it's going to be interesting to see which developer workflow wins out, right? I mean, that's a lot, and we're not even talking about Oracle's not in there, Amazon's not in there with Kiro, so it's an interesting space. So, and here's the soundbite. So every dollar of revenue Cursor earns basically funds its own competition, right? Because all they're doing is kind of the harness is what they're selling, but then they're just reselling all of the different models. So it makes a lot of sense to try to converge if XAI can have a frontier model that's that good at coding. So it'll be interesting.
Very, very interesting time we'll look back on.
Yeah. So only CFO had a great or like article on his Substack. So he said the ceiling is falling. So essentially, the max of what people will pay for software is coming down, right? Just because you can. So the ceiling, as he states, is one, the perceived value by the customer, right? So what business outcomes are you directly driving that you can attribute? You can price to that. Two, the middle, what are the alternatives, right? What other vendors and what are their pricing, which people anchor on. And then the floor is building internally. And so he said he just churned a six-figure vendor because last year they tried out one of their AI features and it worked great, saved time. And now they could do the same thing with Claude Cowork and Code with all the integrations they have internally, kind of like a Glean, but at 15% of the cost. 15%.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean,
Flexible and customizable. Tell us, Doom. Do you like Cowork?
oh, I love it. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, just tap in your MCPs. It's like you can build pretty much whatever you want. And yeah, like the Gleans of the world are like, yeah. I mean, yeah. And I think, I don't know if you saw like this, I should probably share it with you, but Salesforce came out and basically said, hey, we're a headless company now. Like, basically, like API first, like, oh, gee, like Bezos like statement. But yeah, for us, like, I'm still trying to work through my OAuth to get it. And I have my Salesforce team, kudos to them. They're helping us. But yeah, like getting that set up in my Claude Cowork, because as soon as that's up, and now with these like living, dashboards, like I'm off to the races.
No, so one, right? There's a post. I don't want to use your agent. I want my agent to use your APIs. And so it just reminds me of the disintermediation. So if Salesforce is the data layer, but they lose the GUI layer for the interaction of it, then they're at risk of disintermediation. Just like they're a platform, and now someone comes in and is the everything app. Like now it's easier. So now Cowork is in control of the end user, and then they can, point whatever data source or destination they want to. How does Salesforce compete, right? They don't even own the customer at that point, it feels like.
Yeah. And I've thought about that too. Like, and we've talked about this in the past, like of like a simple like MVP type CRM. Cause wasn't able to get they weren't releasing the MCP for a minute at Salesforce. And so I was like a little frustrated. And then we talked about like the CRM for like niche. But yeah, you like right now, I was like, I could probably just go spin up a Google Sheets, put my headers like name, email, role, phone number, notes, and then always just say, hey, you know, pull this. It's my customer, you know, worksheet, pull all
Yep.
my content, update the notes field, date it, and just like use a Google Sheets and Claude and have my own CRM.
Yep. I mean, I wonder if, yeah, so it's interesting move. At the same time, I see the risk of them not doing that. I don't know that, I guess what they're basically saying is we are launching Salesforce for agents. They're not going to have Salesforce for all the humans because humans are so visual, they have to have that, but you're going to have agents running on top of their Salesforce data. It's just interesting that they're making it so open to third party agents. And maybe they're going to try to restrict it around the customer agents and not allow co-work to integrate. I don't, but like how do
Yeah.
you, that's a fine line to walk.
Yeah. And this may date me too, but do you remember Access Database? It was a Microsoft, like,
Yep.
you know, like I literally keep thinking back to that. I'm like, because it was really just an Excel worksheet, like in the
Yep.
back end, like, and I was like, you could do that now with Claude, but it have be so much more dynamic.
Yeah. Dude, it's just amazing what I'm able to build. Like I was trying to build a landing page with Framer and an MCP with anti-gravity and as well as Claude Code. And it worked pretty well. Then it kind of hit a bug. But now to do just the artifacts and what I'm able to create, it is just insane what you can do as an individual these days. And if you don't know, you just have a general idea. I just started asking it, how do I do this? What's the approach? What's the strategy? And it's okay, let's do step one. And then you just learn along the way. It's just reducing the friction to learning so much. But I'm not charging anything yet. This is where I still go back to they have to get revenue or cut costs, which I feel like it's gonna be easier to cut costs and cost being people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think we're seeing that even though people are saying it's not AI, but you know, the Meta and the, who was it, Accenture
Microsoft and Accenture, or yeah, because Microsoft does I think offer the 7% buyout or something.
or
So it's like,
retirement too. They're like, go retire. Like you're done.
yeah. So this is where A16 says their survival playbook for SaaS companies is per outcome pricing because you can defend it, right? You can say I drove this outcome, this is the price, so that's your only option. This comment from only CFO, multi-year contracts make even less sense. The buyer's remorse associated with, oh, we signed this 3-year deal and Claude Cowork just announced this integration that makes years 2 and 3 like worthless. It's like, Jesus, that hits home for me, like, and you, because multi-year contracts, selling 1 year at a time with a little increase on renewal. I mean, that's hard in a world that's moving this fast for software.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to go study the outcome-based pricing a little more because I always like wrap myself around the axle of like, well, how do you verify it? Like, you take the customer's word, or like, how are you going to quantify that? You know,
Yeah, I agree. Let me pull up this. So sharing this on the penetration in different markets. So his thought was these AI companies are not trying to drive revenue. They're just going for the easy button of cutting costs. And I thought this was interesting. So total AI spend by industry, it's still only 50 to 75 billion, right? And you add up OpenAI and Claude, but you look at the US labor market. So software engineering, they have it 400 billion. and the total AI spend is only 10 to 12 billion. AI penetration is 2.8%. One thing I wanted to chat about with you was this whole, is Claude hype real around GTM? So the 2026 GTM Pulse report says mostly yes, the hype is real. So I thought it was interesting. So I think this is a survey of GTM leaders in like smaller organizations. So Cowork, they said, has passed at 32%. Claude Code, which is now is 31%, is the primary tool. Just 3 months after launch. Key gap: 93% of code users relied on detailed company context versus 72% of coworkers. Yeah, it was code is for compounding systems, Cowork for sophisticated tasks. I mean, do you want to speak a little bit about like in the last 3 months, what have you rolled out? Like, what have you been able to personally do in Cowork that like you couldn't do, 6 months ago? And when did you just walk us back to when you started using it at work?
Yeah. And maybe before that, just so I don't forget, because you did surface something that I thought was interesting. I, excuse me, I sent you a link, and then I noticed the link that I sent you, it didn't share what that link was. It was just a perplexity link. And you're probably like, why is he just sending me this? Because unless you clicked on it, you wouldn't see what the actual content. So an interesting like go-to-market strategy for Perplexity, what I'm seeing, and I don't use them. I don't know anybody who does, but they started running these Instagram ads. Yes, I'm on Instagram scrolling, but it's more for CrossFit. It's how I stay up to date. But they started running these Instagram ads that are actually targeted at use cases of how to use Perplexity. So the few that caught my eye was, and then once I started clicking on them, obviously they start feeding you more, but they said, build your pipeline in, minutes, not days with Perplexity. And so I was like, oh, how do I do this? Click on it. And it takes me, and it's like, oh, put your, company LinkedIn profile here. We will pull all of the likes, comments, all of the followers, build you lead lists, and give you all of their contact information. So basically they're scraping LinkedIn, which is like an old school, GTM play that you'd have to do manually. Took you a lot
Yeah.
of third-party resources. So there was that one that they had. And then there was another one that was like, are you currently looking for a job and unsuccessful? Perplexity can get you an interview within like whatever they the pitch was. But basically then it's like, you click on it and it's like, upload your LinkedIn profile here. We'll redo your whole LinkedIn profile in minutes and have you ready for the job position of your choice. And we'll also feed you open roles that fit the scope and role of what you currently fit. So I thought that was like interesting. So Perplexity is taking it from like, all right, we're not going to win on a Cowork or, code. Let's just put like spoon fed, like here's somebody who's looking for a job. But in order to access these features, you have to subscribe for the $20 a month plan.
Got it. Yeah. Interesting. So
Right.
more prosumer.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting like go to market for them, is like they're losing, right? Like nobody's using Perplexity. But hey, if you can get like somebody to pay $20 to get their LinkedIn profile and, 20, ideal jobs that are open and for what they're looking for, someone's probably going to pay that $20.
Yep. No, agreed. So the so I haven't spent much time on Perplexity because it's you can go so deep on Claude, and next up is and then Gemini and Codex. But I know a lot of people that love Perplexity. I was just this was a good, I think, a framing of so Claude Desktop. People kind of use this interchangeably. Cowork. So they've integrated everything into this app, and so now, as you got the tab on the left is chat. Claude Cowork is the middle, and then Claude Code is on the right. Then they embed the features like live artifacts or artifacts of different ones. I'll be honest, it is a little confusing. Projects, for example, don't sync to your devices. They stay on the in the like online, and so you can pull them down, but that's a one-time sync. You've got artifacts, you've got dispatch and Cowork. It's kind of hard to know when you should be using what. I don't think you can use skills in Cowork or something like you can. It's just, anyways, it's pretty interesting. But this was a great kind of breakdown of the different where it lives, how you integrate with the tool connections, whether it's MCP built in or CLI, team sharing. Claude Code is the best, but that's really via GitHub. So that was an interesting kind of comparison. I thought that was helpful. This blew my mind. So move from MCP to CLI or API. It's way more consistent. It's way cheaper. And I can attest to this. I've been trying to do some MCP interactions on my desktop because a lot of the apps MCP is for the application layer, and so it's local, not via a third party API. It is so much slower and consumes so many more tokens. It's kind of amazing. So here, this monthly cost of $3 versus 55, and the reliability, right, is 100% versus 72. It's something to kind of consider if you can not use an MCP. It seems like it might be better. Again, like if it can be deterministically set with a workflow or solution, it's probably not a good fit for an LLM kind of thing, right? So why don't over engineer these things? This is what I want to get you on. I can't zoom in, but I know this is GTM and not sales leaders or sales reps as much, but Claude Code selling 2%, Cowork 2%. Like sales is just not adopting it, or it's not a great fit yet. Again, maybe because so much of our role is trying to influence orgs outside of our companies, or it's not like a tool can go and get a sale. And what are your thoughts? Why do you think it's so low still?
I mean, and I take a lot of these like with the grain of salt, and sometimes they're biased and skewed. So I guess I would question like what they're calling sales or GTM. And then the analogy I give to is like I saw one of these similar report, I think, on this site where they were saying like at the end of year they did a recap of like the most impactful like ways teams were spending money and the highest ROIs, and they were saying events. So I think it like skews to like the population you're
Yeah.
surveying.
Yep.
Um, and I do know that there's like a lot of people now, like if you go on LinkedIn, their title, they call themselves GTM, but then like you scroll down and you look at like their headline title is GTM. And then you scroll down and they'll be like, oh, I'm a sales leader or I'm an account executive or whatever it may be. And maybe there's some like negative connotation around like saying you're in sales. And so you're just not saying like you're
Yeah.
using it for sales. Yeah, so it's hard to say like, you know, I'm sure there's lots of salespeople that are using it. Maybe they're just not like classifying themselves as using it for sales. Cause like stuff I do like this week, built multiple proposals, cleaned up, past proposals, had it help me draft like Basho outreach. Like, I don't know, like
Yeah.
Basho used to be that's sales, right?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's embedded in here to your point. It depends on how you define the scope and your role. And I misquoted here. So the adoption's 23%, right? That's a fifth to a quarter. That's pretty substantial. It was just the number one use case for GTM. Only 2% had selling as the number one, which I guess that makes more sense. It's just interesting. AI and these in marketing and GTM is so much on the content creation side, images and all those things. It's it's versus code. It fundamentally does creates the output of what an engineer does, if that makes sense. So you look at other roles, there's not as much of an overlap in terms of like what Claude generates versus what the human used to generate, at least right now. So, and then if you take your job is to deliver revenue. If you could just give that to Claude, then we'd really be screwed. I don't see that happening though.
I will say though, too, to your point, like it depends on how you classify it. And like, even though like what somebody's doing is the activity might not, like that ultimate output may not be, or the instant output may not be, oh, landed a sales. But I guess like the analogy or the example I would use is like one of the first things I did was I pulled down all of my Salesforce leads and contacts, just fed it as an Excel worksheet to Claude Cowork and said, highlight any high potential opportunities that you see based on my target ICP being fintech, TradFi, or neobanks, both in North America and APAC. And so then it went and did all its work, and then it built out a hit list, an Excel hit list of like, here's your highest. I ranked them and tiered them based on ICP and based on publicly available information on their website and how they are reacting or their appetite for crypto. And so I thought that was really cool. That would have took somebody a very long time, and not instantly like, oh, I didn't get like sales out of it, but put that in my hand. I either go sell to that list or I have like SDR or somebody, right? Go execute on it.
100%, 100%. So yeah, I think I'm curious. I've been working in the design aspect, so I haven't built out some of the workflows, but a buddy just asked for some help on this. So I'm going to hopefully have some more time this weekend. Shot with camping, but it'll be interesting to see if, to your point, what does that look like? How effective, like building the list is one thing, getting responses is another. So that I'm super curious to see how that works out. I thought this was really interesting on the SaaS apocalypse, what Claude isn't replacing. So the GTM tools that code and cowork users love, right? And so number one was ChatGPT, which was interesting. Number two is Clay, and then number three is HubSpot. Then you got LinkedIn, then you have Apollo, and then you have other, yeah, just a longer list. What's interesting is this, you can tell if they love HubSpot and you don't see Salesforce, I think that's an indication of this is a more mid-market, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just for more SMB. So that's what the survey, it's not the largest companies out there, but it's kind of interesting, essentially you've got, I don't know what ChatGPT, you've got lead enrichment, and then you've got the whole marketing funnel and sales funnel, right? Those are, so it's kind of interesting. We just talked about how it's not sales, but all of this is for trying to drive revenue.
Yeah, 100%.
Just the signal maybe is not kind of popping out clearly because it's one step removed from the account executive or something. So
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to you and I've talked about this offline a lot, like the agency and like the imposter syndrome. Maybe we're just more advanced. Like we're more like, yeah, more like, yeah, acclimated. Like, I don't know what the proper word, but yeah, we're just a little bit more smarter than the average account executive bear.
I'd rather be lucky than smart. No, it's fine. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm still struggling with how is this going to help me in my job exactly. I do get some time back. I do get productivity. But yeah, there's a lot of mashing nine of the teeth, and it's not real clear. Okay, but now Quinn, point to me like what you were able to do now that you couldn't do before.
Yeah. Where I think, and and something I've been thinking about a lot, like for me, I don't have enough time at work to like iterate and like play around and ideate. Like, so when I do get time, I'm like going and running off on like and doing something that I've wanted to do. And this tangent here is like maybe companies are making the wrong move by firing people right now because as you like condense the workforce, those people become more busy because they're picking up potentially slack from others, unless they've already solved that problem. And that's why they're letting them go. But like in my example, it'd be like, you know, if I had more bandwidth, I could probably go experiment more and build more. And
Yep.
then what productivity gains would that lead to? So right now my productivity gains are like, invent and simplify is like limited to my bandwidth.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you need to use more scheduled tasks and routines.
Well, that too,
Smart
about,
enterprise.
yeah, in general, like if you just wipe out 8,000 of your workforce and you expect the remaining workforce to pick up that workload, unless they already solved for that, right? So how are they going to go like
Yeah.
ideate and
I I 100% agree. But it makes me, what were those people doing? Not to sound, it's just how much of this is SaaS because of the margins and the duration of like they've had such amazing margins that they never had to evaluate like a manufacturing company would, like where every cost gets weighted on your per unit and your margins are like really, thin, that now they're just taking a really hard look because they have to, because now they're under pressure. And was that a nice to have or a need to have? And yeah, it's an interest because we've felt it. I felt it indirectly and directly, and it's kind of interesting to see. It's like, that not a big deal. But then there's also my customer maybe didn't get directly impacted, but then I talked to peers and they are really struggling because the resource covering them was no longer there, got rationalized or put into a different role because a lot of people went into different roles. So it's an interesting time because I also don't know anybody that's working less. I don't know anybody that said, oh yeah, like I just got 10 hours back in my day or my week. And I'm like, I just feel like I'm going constantly. I'm at my computer at 9 o'clock at night, like, da, 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 da. It's just like, fucking trying to
Yeah.
figure this out. So,
You know who's working less is the people that got fired.
yeah, dude, I feel bad. I heard some stories lately. It's just like, dang, that sucks. Like, that's real. And then I guess that's what makes me so paranoid to keep doing it is because it's like, I don't, it could easily be me next week, right? Who knows? So you just, yeah. So keep learning, keep trying, keep experimenting. To your point, I think we got to make time. Do those 90-minute blocks. At least once a week and pump on it. So until then, keep tinkering.
Learn and be curious.